That I bought my first gaming console ever, a Dreamcast, at a Toys R Us in St. Louis, Missouri. And I couldn't even use it at the time because the TV didn't have ports for me to plug it into. And for some reason, my mom, like, we got back home and my mom was like, oh, don't try to set it up without your dad. But Dad wasn't going to be home for another, like, couple of weeks because he was, like, doing, it was a bit, we went up there to visit Dad. He was on this, like, extended business. It doesn't matter. And I was like, I'm going to do it anyway because I reckon it's not that hard. It was the first time we'd ever plugged anything into a television using... I'm not even joking. We'd never used the composite cables before. You know, the red, yellow, and white. But I knew that they were there, and I knew there was a button on the TV to switch between inputs, and I was like, how hard can this be? So I plugged in the cable. I, like, color coordinated, right? Red into the red, white into the white, yellow into the yellow, except I think it was just yellow and white. I don't remember there being a red one. I think it only had one audio channel, which is weird. Plug that in, plugged it into the wall, hit the power button, it turned on. My mother went on to tell all of her friends on the phone for the next 2 weeks that I was a genius. It's like he just figured it out all by himself. He just pulled it out and set it up all by himself. I was 9? No. Actually, I was 8. No? Yeah, I was 8. I hadn't turned 9 yet. I was about to turn 9. I don't think I was a genius. I think I just looked at the cables and determined the only places they could possibly go and then plugged them in there. You know the differences between, like, boomers and the youngins? We are willing to just do things. We're willing to look at something and say, I bet it works like this. What's the worst that could happen? And the boomers aren't. The boomers are convinced if they do that and it's wrong, everything will catch on fire. It's a different generation, man. It's wild. Red Letter Media did a video once. I mean, Red Letter Media, you know, they have their best of the worst series, and in that they have, I'm pretty sure this was a Black Spine episode. It could have been Wheel of the Worst, but they watched this old tape from like the late 80s, early 90s, probably early 90s, about getting ready to use computers in the business space, right? And there was this lady who was terrified of the fact that they were getting computers at work. And then she goes to bed and she has this nightmare where she's chained to a desk and she pushes a single button on the keyboard and Satan appears on the screen and says, you pushed the wrong button. And then it catches fire or blows up or something. And I watched them watch that and I realized, like, oh, that's why boomers are the way that they are with computers. They never outgrew that phase of thinking, like, well, if I do it wrong, it'll catch on fire and it costs as much as a house because computers are expensive now. But adjusted for inflation, computers are much cheaper than they've ever been. Trust me. All right, you go back in time and you buy a computer in like a desktop in the mid 80s. Those things were the same price or more than a car. So it was a whole different thing. Like nowadays, if I do something wrong on my computer and somehow like this System 32 gets deleted, I don't even use Windows. But you know what I mean? Like I can clear the hard drive, reinstall it, it'll be fine. Yeah, I can fix that. You know, motherboard burnt, I can replace that. Back then, it was a whole different thing, and they just never outgrew that. So if you ever wondered, you know, if you're a millennial like me or Gen Z, or maybe even a little older than me, Gen X, boomers don't know there's a difference between Gen X, Y, and Z. We're all just millennials in their mind, which is not how that works, but whatever. If you ever wondered why your boomer parents and boomer grandparents can't set up the clock on their microwave, it's not that they lack the intelligence. If they tried, they'd probably be able to figure it out, okay? They're just scared the microwave will blow up if they start pushing buttons. Set clock button? That's scary. Not gonna click that without asking my 8-year-old grandson. He'll just know what to do. If you yourself are a boomer parent or grandparent, I'm about to let you in on the secret. We don't know. We have no clue. You ask us to do something, we don't. I think that's the confusion. I think that in their minds, they think that we know what we're doing. When they're like, can you come do this? In their minds, they're like, oh, they know all the steps already. We don't. We have no clue. We're just looking at it and doing what makes sense. There's a button that says set clock. I'll hit that. Well, there's a plus and minus on here, I guess, for setting the time when you're doing the microwave. I'll probably just use that. Yeah, that worked. Maybe I hit end. No, that didn't work. Let me go back and start over until it works. Then eventually you get the time set, and they're like, you're a genius. You should go work for Microsoft. You should be a coder. It's like, no. That's like saying if I managed to like put gas in my car, you will come over and be like, wow, you know what? You should really be a race car driver. You managed to get from home to school, you should be a NASCAR. It's like, I thought that I did a menial task. The two are not related. I'm just going off on tangents.